Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another interview here on Play on GAA podcast. This time I have former Dublin Minor goalkeeper and former underage Ireland goalkeeper who also played for Bows. Now he's of NKU in America, Seán Bohan. How's it getting on, Seán?
Good. How are you?
Good. All right, so you've just signed with NKU over in America. This is really a new beginning for you in your career. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, 100%. I suppose it was when the opportunity came arise. It was hard to say no to a 4-year scholarship over in the US. It's something that's very appealing, especially the way football's going over there. It's really taking a step forward. Of course, going to college. Well, they consider it a student athlete, so you have to keep your grades well. You've got to work hard, and along with that, you have to do well on the pitch, and hopefully make the most of it over there, and get drafted into the pro game. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, you've got a degree, and you never know where football can take you in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. So now that we've established where we are, we'll go all the way back to the beginning. The start of your career. You played a wide range of sports. You played Gaelic football, you played hurling, you played football, obviously, as well. Which was your favourite sport, right from the start? Was it always football, or was there ever a stage when there was a different sport there for you?
I suppose growing up, my dad was more of a Gaelic football man. He wouldn't have really been, a soccer man, as you call it. He more gravitated me. He's trying to gravitate me towards the GAA, and I suppose growing up, I loved playing it. It was something that I always enjoyed. It was always a time where, I always just felt like I could play with a smile on my face. When I was playing football, I suppose as a kid, it was very, with Kevin's growing up. Obviously, I grew up playing for Kevin's from I think around 4. I grew up playing there, and I suppose as the ages went through, it became a lot more serious. And I suppose when you're playing two different sports, and obviously growing up playing GAA, it's a lot different to where football is. I suppose it's a lot more, enjoy yourself, make sure you play with a smile on your face, whereas football is kind of, you've got to do this, you've got to be up the top of your game. Mistakes, they can't really happen and things like that, whereas with the GAA, I suppose it kind of, you were able to make mistakes, and everyone encouraged you and things like that, which I found that I always enjoyed playing the game more than the football as I grew up. But then I suppose growing up, and you see what the opportunities are in football and GAA. I suppose I eventually ended up preferring to play football. I thought I could make a living out of this. I could do this as a profession. And I thought, like, look, at the end of the day, you can't play full time in GAA. You've got your season. What, the league starts in January, and it finishes around September, first weekend of September. So I suppose when I think of that, and you've got a football season where you go, I suppose in America now it's a lot different. You've got 2 seasons. You've got your first season, which is the fall as they consider it. You've got August to I think December. That's when you'll play your conference, things like that, and then obviously in January to May, I think it is. It's more kind of it's not competitive. And I suppose when I seen that I had the opportunity to play full time football and growing up, I kind of did gravitate towards that just because I've always been a sports person. I do enjoy playing sports, and it's the happiest I'll ever be. It's when I'm playing sport. But definitely, I think my dad definitely wanted me to play GAA more growing up, which is fair enough. It's what he wanted. But I suppose as I grew up, and eventually, I can't remember when it was that I gave up the hurling. I suppose I grew up playing hurling as well for years. I think it was around maybe 12, 13, I gave up the hurling. Could be wrong with that. Just because football became more serious, and I had a lot less time on my hands. And that's kind of when things got real in football, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And so one thing that I noticed, obviously growing up playing on the same team as you, was there was kind of under 14 was the age where all of a sudden everything really stepped up and the significance of things stepped up. And that was around the time that you moved out to Malahide United to play for them, and the time that the NDSL, really kicked off and picked their best team, and you made the cut. Like, how did that feel?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I suppose, growing up, you always want to play at the best level. And I suppose getting the opportunity to do that, along with playing GAA, still, obviously, I had to give up the hurling, which was unfortunate because I did enjoy playing hurling, but I had to give it up because I suppose Gaelic football would have been my more preferred sport in the GAAs. But it was a great, you feel great, especially when you're getting picked for squads and things like that. And, and the opportunities, the trips you get to go on and things like that, at a young age and you get these trips, it's the memories you look back on and it's where you came from.
Yeah, definitely. And this was also the same year that we, of course, won the double. We won the Division One Féile and we won the Division One League. And
Yeah.
how did that feel? I remember, obviously, I remember how it felt being on the pitch. When that game, and obviously the league final was amazing as well.
I think it was just more playing with your friends. And I think, we grew up together, obviously. I think you'll remember yourself in the summers and things like that. Every day we used to go down to Aiden's and, we'd be kicking ball from first thing in the morning till, I suppose, the late evening. And I think we all, as a group, I think it brought us a lot more together, especially we just had left school. We went into secondary school and, I think we clicked as a group. I found that, if you play and just play with your mates, that you're always going to do much better, and we had a great relationship together. And I think it was just great to be the first club to ever do the Dublin Whitehall and to win the league and fail it. It was brilliant. It was, and I think just for ourselves, especially, how well we got on as a group. I think that was the main thing. We all wanted to do well for each other, and I think that's what really brought us on as a team, and what brought us a step ahead of everyone, I suppose.
Yeah, and there was definitely foundations of the school that we went to, West Colmcille. That was the foundations of the team that won all those things for Whitehall. A lot of those lads went to Gaelscoil Colmcille as well as St. Fiacre's. So winning for the school together, that kind of, I think, transcended into, we're used to winning things with the school. Now we're used to winning things with the club, and then of course that translated to success on the pitch.
Definitely, 100%. I think we all knew each other. We all knew what our strengths, our weaknesses were, and things like that. And then especially, we trained with the lads from Fiacres and wherever else. And I suppose we both just clicked. I suppose we didn't have different mixtures of groups and different skills coming in. We were all local lads. Whereas a lot of teams around Dublin, they'd have mixtures from all types of skills coming in. Whatever primary skills they went to. Whereas we were kind of we just had Gaelscoil Colmcille, and then obviously we had Fiacres. I don't think there was many other skills involved then. Growing up, not that I can remember, anyways. And I think it did give us the platform to play off, and especially then we were all great friends outside of football as well, which really helped. I think we had a great relationship. We all knew, we just knew each other inside out, and I think that just gave us every bit of benefit on the pitch then.
Yeah, and so as I've said, this was the year when things really stepped up. Like, you were playing at an elite level now in Gaelic football, and the best team in Dublin that year. And you were obviously playing as well for Malahide and selected for the NDSL team. Was this the stage where you really started to think, I'm going to pursue now? I'm not sure what career, but I'm definitely going to pursue a career in sports.
Definitely, yeah. I suppose I'm sure you know yourself. Growing up, all I did was play football first thing in the morning, first the last thing at night. And I suppose I knew it was certainly something that I wanted to do in my life, whether it's coaching, whether it's playing full time, whatever the thing is. I just want something to do with sport in my life. And I suppose I ended up just getting the opportunities in football that I could go on these trips. I was going over to the UK on these football trips with the team, and we got to play the likes of Everton, Man City. I can't even remember who else we played, but Preston. You're getting these opportunities as a kid, and these are the teams that you're looking at on the telly, and you're thinking, this is where you want to be, this is what you want to do. This is what we talked about in school or whatever. Who won the game on the weekend, and that it was such an incentive for me, was looking at these, and this is where I want to be. I want to play pro football. Of course, I love playing, Gaelic football, but I just thought you can't go full time in this. You can't actually, make a career out of this. Of course, you can make a career, but you can't do this as you wake up in the morning and you put your boots on, you go out and train. You can't do that. I just wanted football to be a career for me, and I suppose that's what made me gravitate more towards football then.
Yeah. So after these couple of years, then obviously it seemed to me like the demands of football definitely became more and more like intense. And then obviously you signed for Bowes in 2017. That was as an under 17. And just tell me how it feels, how it felt to have such a, esteemed club like Bowes, come looking for your signature.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Like, I suppose you're looking on the telly, and I've got a family full of Bowls fans, which is even better, for them especially. And you kind of the history of the club and what it means to the people around. And I suppose I never understood that completely until I got the opportunity. And when I first started playing for Bowls, I think it was great. I was playing week in and week out, and it was opening different doors for me. And that's kind of when the international setup came around then as well. Obviously playing at an elite level, I suppose the highest you can play at that age group, it does open a lot more doors for you. And even going across the water and on trials and things like that, it opened a lot more doors for me. And it was just brilliant to have a club like that, come around and, so offer me the chance to play for them. And yeah, it was an honour to go and play for Bowls, and a club like that comes around the door, it's a no-brainer going to sign for them.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's one of the most, the highest stature really that a club has in Dublin and indeed in Ireland, the history that's attached to Bowes. But, 2018 then I think was the year where you'd been rising now for a few years, but 2018 was the year when, suddenly things were happening at an outrageous level for you. I mean, you signed senior for Bohemians, and then of course you're on the FIFA game. How did that feel? To see your face, to be able to play as yourself on one of the most played video games around.
Yeah, I suppose it was mental. I remember sitting up that night and waiting for FIFA to download, just to look at yourself playing on FIFA. Like, it was mental. It was, as a kid. I'm sure everyone dreamt of being on the game and being able to see yourself on FIFA. It was mental. It was, and it was something that it was nearly a dream come true, especially at such a young age. 17, and being on FIFA at that age, you're thinking, Jesus, like, you could really make a living out of this, and this is what you want to do. And it was just mad. It was. I couldn't. It was hard to take in at times everything that was going. At that time, it was just a lot to take in. It was, and I suppose, yeah, it did challenge me a lot, mentally. I kind of struggled a lot. I like when I get stressed, I get real sick and all. I get real bad sore throats and things like that. And I think I really struggled at the time with everything that was going on. I found myself with plenty of sore throats and things like that. Like, just whatever way my body dealt with stress, it really, it affected me a lot. It did, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I get you. And obviously to be playing at such an elite level, like the stress and the pressure, I'd say, gets higher and higher as you go up. And was there anything that you could do? Was there anything that was like a reliable thing to fall back on to kind of relieve that stress or to make the burden a bit less?
To be fair now, I really struggled. I found, I suppose, my first year, I was bouncing up and down with the 19s and balls, and the first team I was traveling away. I was in Finn Harps one evening. We had Finn Harps away. You get home at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're up at 10 o'clock. To play a game for the 19s, and it was really tough. It was challenging. It was. And I never really found, I never could find that balance between, recovering and things like that while you're in school and things like that. And I did struggle with it. It nearly took it took a few years, I suppose, to finally just like find what you like, your balance between, dealing with the pressures of it and, whatnot. I did struggle with it. I never really had a go-to thing. I think the main thing for me was just finding the enjoyment, like not letting the stress of everything get into you. And I think I as a kid, like, I definitely, and even at that age, I let the pressures of everything get to me. I just thought of the worst case scenario and things like that. And I don't know why I did think like that. And that's when I kind of thought, what's the point in playing football if you're going to be putting this much pressure on yourself? Like, you need to find a balance. And I suppose that's when I had a lot more of a mentality change. And I suppose I thought to myself, like, what's the point in playing this? If you're not going to play football and you're smiling every day, what's the point in doing it? And I think that's what clicked with me. And ever since, I suppose, 90% of the time now when I'm playing football, I'll have a smile on my face. Of course, you're gonna have bad days, but it's just been able to get over that, and then the next day going out, and, again playing with a smile on your face.
Yeah, no, good point. And that was also the year that, well, it definitely seemed from the outside like a real last minute call into the Dublin Minor Footballers that year, 2018. You're under Jason Sherlock. and you got called in, quite last minute to play for the Dublin Miners. Like, how did that feel? So now you've been called into a team, and now you're stuck straight in goal. I remember you started against Offaly. You did very well that day. I was at the game myself, and yeah, how did it feel to just adapt to, back to Gaelic football really quickly?
It was strange, it was, to be fair. I remember I used to do double sessions during the week and things like that. I actually didn't tell Bowes at the time that I was playing with the minors. I suppose that was another dream for me to do, was to play for the Dubs growing up. And I think it's every kid's dream to play for the Dubs growing up. And, especially for my dad watching on, and my ma, of course, but my dad especially, he always wanted me to play for the Dubs. My ma always just encouraged me to do what makes me happiest. And I suppose it was a dream come true getting the chance to play for the Dubs, and be forever grateful to Jason for what he did for me. Found ways to work around it. Eventually, I had to tell Bowes that I was playing for it, and luckily enough, I was with Shane Supple there, and I can't thank him enough either. Because I know Keith Long he wasn't a fan of me playing the guy, obviously, while I was up with the first team at Bowes and traveling around the country and things like that, and then playing for the Dubs, and then I'm away with the national team as well. So it was a lot to take on, but I have to say, Keith, only for Shane Supple, he told Keith, let me do it, and it's a great opportunity for me again. It's just opening more doors for me. And then obviously once we found that out, the lads worked with Jason as well to what days I'd be up with the Dubs, what days I'd be with Bowes, and whatever else, making sure it's at every game and things like that for both teams. And it was brilliant. It was mental to take on while you're in school as well. It was just, I suppose, it was every kid's dream falling in at once. Like literally, I think I played that Offaly game anyways, and then I travelled to the Euros with the Irish. I think it was the 17s. Yeah, we went to the 17s European Championships, and it was mental. It was. Obviously we had a great run, got to the quarterfinals of the Euros, and then unfortunately went out in that penalty shootout against the Netherlands. There was a few mad refereeing decisions and that, but look, we won't go too into that. But look, I suppose then I got off the plane, and then I'm in a squad to play Meath then the next day for the Dubs, and it was just mental. It was like it was every kid's dream, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And I was watching that Ireland game as well. I remember Corcoran making that penalty save, and I remember thinking, like, we're on our way here, like, and then
Yeah,
to see it be called back, how did that feel on the bench?
I think everyone was in shock more than anything else. Like, nobody could believe what they were saying. Jimmy got a harsh yellow. I think he even got it in the first half. The ref said he was time wasting. I'm nearly certain we were a goal down at the time as well. And Jimmy got a yellow card for time wasting, which was a mad decision. I don't think anyone could believe it. But then you're thinking, oh, look, it's only a yellow card. It's not as if a keeper's going to get a second yellow. And we come to a penalty shootout, and the referee, I don't actually think at the time that the rule was there that if the keeper comes off his line, that's a second yellow card. I'm nearly certain the rule wasn't there, but the ref said that Jimmy came off his line, and if you look back at the video, he didn't come off his line until the penalty was taken. Once you make your dive, you dive forward, and obviously your foot's gonna come off the line when you're diving forward. And by the time the ball was kicked, Jimmy, there's a picture that wherever it was, there was a picture of it anyways, and Jimmy's foot's still on the line, but the referee and his linesman, they think that it was a second yellow. He was off his line, and I think everyone was just in shock more than anything else. Nobody could believe what was going on. We needed that. Jimmy needed to save that for us to stay in the penalty shootout, and he did, of course. And again, nobody could believe what was happening. And then, I'm being told, get change and going on. And then I'm thinking, I can't come on, like, it's a penalty shootout. You can't make a change in penalty shootouts. And it was just a mad run of emotions.
Yeah, was that probably the toughest disappointment to take in your career up to date?
I wouldn't say that now. I suppose, like, looking back on it, I could never put my finger on something. I think the more challenging things probably came further on so far, like, more later, like, I suppose later on in my career. I suppose it's only a short career, if you want to call it, but I suppose I wouldn't pick that one out personally. I think it was definitely tough to take, just in terms of, you want to play in the biggest games. If we won that, we would have played England in the semi-final, and of course the Euros were in England that year. be playing England, and you probably would. They were getting full houses. They were. I can't remember where the game was meant to be played now, the semi-final, but you definitely would have got a full house at that. And that's a game you dream of playing in, is Ireland England, and Jimmy could have been suspended for that, and I was next in line to step in, but look, it wasn't to be, and I suppose that's what football is. You take take every step backwards as it comes, and you just have to step back forward. Then.
Yeah, no, well said. So obviously, then after this hectic year, I have no doubt that it might have, there might have been too much on your plate. Playing for three, super serious setups. And then, of course, the call came back, would you be interested in coming back to play for the Whitehall Miners in 2019? Obviously, we'd gone on to win the A Championship, and that was, a super successful year. And we were obviously aiming to do it again in 2019. Did you welcome that call back to play Gaelic football, at a club level again?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose, like I've said earlier on, like Gaelic football was huge for me growing up, and it was something I always wanted to do. I suppose as times got tough and like I had no time on my hands, like doing double sessions and things like that. It was tough, and then eventually, everything settled down. Obviously, it was too old to play for the minor team, and for the Dubs Miners, of course. So I suppose I had a bit more time on my plate, and then obviously in the new year, Dolls, obviously they did sign a second first team keeper, so I could specifically play with the 19s, but he ended up leaving for work commitments. He couldn't leave, so I was back in the same boat, bouncing from one team to the other, and it was tough again. But then obviously when Whitehall came about and asked me would I come back, it was a no-brainer to come back. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out. I suppose getting to play every match, and I was coming at half time the games and things like that, which was tough. When I suppose that it's tough for people even watching on, and I might get thrown on ahead of someone or things like that, and I it isn't fair. I suppose people are there working their arse off, training week in, week out, and someone like me is showing up who couldn't, I just couldn't make training, and it was unfortunate for people, but I suppose in my own, for myself, like, it was brilliant. I'd bite your hand off if you give me the opportunity to play Gaelic football all the time, and you take every opportunity that comes with open arms.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as someone who was, a very close friend of yours on that team, it was a weird situation because you could tell that, as you said, there were a lot of people who were putting a lot of hard work in. And then when you would turn up, you get onto the pitch ahead of them. And it's very easy to look at that and think, who's this guy who, hasn't gone to training and everything like this. Whereas I was in a position where I was close enough to you to know how much you're actually sacrificing to make it to this game, that you'd been training the night before, you'd had a game the day before, you'd had a game that morning, and yet you were still coming down to the game. It wasn't like you just rolled out of bed and decided to play Gaelic football for us. You were putting things aside so that you could come down. And no, like, it was definitely, something that you obviously had to put a lot of work into. But, getting called back, you came back in for what was a huge championship game for us. Obviously, we lost to Ballybowden in the first round, and then we had Nafina at home in the second round of championship. And then the call came from Decky and Noel to come up and play with the A team. Did you really feel like that was kind of a make or break game, especially when you came off the bench?
Yeah, I suppose it kind of, it was a weird situation. I suppose I knew the lads had, they were tight for numbers that day or something like that, and I got asked to come up, and I didn't even think I'd come on the game, and I came on early enough because Kerry done his knee that day. I'll never forget that either. It was just, I couldn't believe that was going on, and like, especially for Kerry, it was horrible for him, especially doing your knee, like something like that. It's just, it's not what you want to see, especially with your mates that you're growing up with. You definitely don't want to see that. But I suppose, again, it's another opportunity that comes about, and I got the chance to come on in that game, and I suppose it was great to just get the chance to come on in that game. I suppose I scored a bit of a strange goal in other senses, but it did help us get the win in that game.
Yeah, and that goal was just pure goalkeeping instincts, if you like. I remember it was just, that was the one that bounced back up and you boxed it in, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally, just made a little short dive down low, I suppose. If I went with my feet, I probably wouldn't have reached it. I don't know if I would have reached it with my feet, but I suppose it's just instinct from playing in goal. I just made it. It was nearly like a save down low, but then it ended up in the back of the net, and you're not going to complain with that, are you?
Yeah, no, definitely. So we went on from that game. We beat Round Towers, and then we got into the quarterfinal. And I think when we got into the quarterfinal, I think a lot of people in the club were starting to, are Whitehall are we gonna do it back to back now? And the way we went out to Skerries, like I'll never forget those refereeing decisions were just like ridiculous. I remember Tig and Adam getting sent off for, really, really stupid things.
Yeah, like look at referees are referees, and I suppose like they don't want to make the wrong decisions. Sometimes they're going to make the wrong decisions, and I suppose reflecting on it, it was a strange game.
It's a tough one to lose, and to lose our title like that, but at least we got to win one, and we go through like that. But moving on, so then after that, you're out of the minors. Did you think after leaving the minors that would be your last time playing Gaelic football, or were you hopeful that you'd play again for a while?
I suppose I in the back of my mind I thought this could be my last game playing Gaelic football, and it was tough to take. Especially there was a lot of opportunities coming about. I was going across the water on trials over in the UK. I was full time with Bows and things like that, and I was nearly thinking to myself, this could be the end of it. Like, and it was tough for me to take, all right, because again, I always loved playing Gaelic football, and I run with open arms back to it, when the chances come about. But I suppose it was tough to take, but I always knew something, and like there was something there that always told me like I will get the chance to play Gaelic football again.
Yeah, and while you were at Bows, of course, you're talking about playing with the seniors. There was one special game which sticks out in my memory as well. Just realizing who you were going to be playing against. That was when Chelsea came for a friendly against Bows. What did it feel like, to be playing in goal against these Premier League footballers?
Yeah, it was a bit mental, all right. Like playing against a World Cup winner and things like that on that pitch, and like I suppose they're the games you want to play in. It was definitely mental looking on. I suppose even just when you look back and reflect on it, the opportunity that came about to playing a game like that, it could be once in a lifetime opportunity. I could end up doing it week in, week out, but at the still as I speak now, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it was great. It was as much as I'm a Spurs fan myself, I definitely didn't want to lose to that lot, but thankfully we did come out with a draw, and I'll certainly never forget that game.
Yeah. Did Chelsea have anyone in particular that you had a bit of wow factor about playing against?
Billy Gilmore was definitely the best player on the pitch, and I knew of him obviously growing up through the international age groups. He would have been my age, and I suppose we never played. I think in under 15s maybe there was an international against Scotland. I actually wasn't. I didn't get picked for that squad, but yeah, I remember growing up and it was always Billy Gilmore this, Billy Gilmore that, and he was definitely the best player on the pitch, and he's up there one of the best players I've played against. For me, definitely, and he's definitely, I think given the right manager, and he will play week in, week out. I know Lampard liked him a lot and did give him a lot of opportunities, but I suppose with Tuchel coming in, he hasn't got much of an opportunity under him yet.
Yeah, no. So then, of course, things kind of changed a little bit with Bowes, and now you find yourself in a situation where you had the choice, of whether or not to go to America. And what were the key motivators for you in deciding that you were going to commit to America and commit to NKU?
Yeah, I suppose looking on it, I actually spoke with Shane Supple in regard to it, just what his opinion would be on it. I know he's got links to he's got contacts in America and things like that. And I remember when the opportunity came about that I was asking him what you reckon and things like that. And he told me grab it with open arms. Like, at the end of the day, worst case scenario, you get a degree out of this, but there's a lot of opportunities over there to play professional football too, along with getting a degree. And he just told me, look, you could stay at Bowes, for a while, and you can wait for James Talbot maybe to move on. Like James, it speaks for itself what he's doing at the moment. He's definitely up there. It's either Shane or James that are probably the best keepers that I've ever worked with, and I think they'll be like that for a long time. Been second choice to two Irish internationals is not something everyone could say, anyways. And Shane told me anyways, grab it with open arms. And I think hearing it from someone like that, I always, especially getting the chance to play with him, it was always someone that I looked up to. And, when you hear something like, Shane's not going to tell you the wrong thing. And I suppose that kind of gave me, that little kick that I needed, to, get it done and, go ahead and make it happen.
Yeah. As you'd signed, then you'd made the decision to go to America. Of course, you got a call then from the Whitehall senior setup, to come and play a couple of games with them. How did that feel to go back there?
Yeah, it was brilliant. All right, it nearly worked out for the better. It did. Obviously, I chose to go to the college in January. I started college in January. I couldn't get over, obviously, with COVID and things like that. The US embassy in Dublin wasn't open. And it was just unfortunate that I couldn't get over. But I suppose I did everything I could. I was training. I was up training with Drogheda there from January all the way up to now. And that was brilliant. I was delighted that they took me on. I was hoping that I might have been able to get the chance to sign for them, and fortunately, things worked out the way it did, and I wasn't allowed to sign for anyone until the summer break came about, and it just obviously that's the case. It's just the rules in the US is you're not allowed to play for a different team until it's the summer. But then obviously with the GAA, the club football, I think it only came back maybe 3-4 months ago. Obviously, it took a while for it to come back with rules and regulations and things like that. Obviously, it's an amateur sport, and it was tough. All right, waiting on that to come back, especially because I knew that obviously the summer had finished. I had the chance that I could actually play football then. Even though it's obviously not soccer, it's not, but it's something that I've always wanted to do again. And when it came about, it was definitely a no-brainer to go back up and play with the lads that you've grown up with.
Yeah, definitely. And just before we finish, with a few little quick fire questions that were sent in on the page, on the Instagram page.
Yeah.
Do you think that it is tougher being a goalkeeper in either Gaelic football or football?
For me, I found it was a lot easier playing Gaelic football and goal. I think just simply because there's such a big pitch, and I suppose there's such a big gap in play and things like that. Whereas football, you've got more narrow pitch; it's a lot smaller, and someone could score from their own half and something like that. So you've always got to be switched on. Whereas with Gaelic football, I suppose the way the game's going now, kickouts are such a huge thing. But even at my time playing in goal and Gaelic football, they weren't. There was a huge, I suppose eye on kickouts, but it wasn't as, say, today's age, the way Gaelic football is now, where kickouts are absolutely everything. And if you don't win your kickouts, you're 99% not going to win the game. And for me, I definitely say Gaelic football would have been easier. Then again, in saying that, it's definitely not an easy place to play in goal and Gaelic football.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, coming from the background obviously that you came from, being a Bohs goalkeeper and Ireland goalkeeper and the NDSL goalkeeper, there is this fascination now in Gaelic football, which has really grown from getting a goalkeeper who plays football or soccer into goal in Gaelic football. Every team loves to have a goalkeeper who plays football in goal for them. And while you were playing for Whitehall, like, obviously there were a couple of games where if Cahill was injured, or say I'll throw Seán Bohan in there, but I felt like there was always an element from you that you wanted to keep playing in goal strictly to football, and you love playing outfield. Did you hate that pressure of, well, I'm a goalkeeper in football, so everybody wants me to be a goalkeeper in GAA?
Yeah, definitely. You always knew that you were the second option no matter what. And I suppose I always felt that it was better outfield and goal, or better outfield in Gaelic football than in goal. Personally, I always felt that, anyways. But I suppose you're not going to let people down either in saying that. I would have done anything just to help the team win. And I suppose that was the main thing for me. Of course, I love playing outfield, and I felt football was football. I playing goal there, but I wish you nearly wish that nobody knew that I played football, just so that they'd look at me as an outfield player in Gaelic rather than a goalkeeper.
Yeah, no, good answer. How did the Dublin setup compare to the professional, club dressing rooms that you'd been in? Was it just as serious, or was there more of a kind of light-hearted approach?
I found it a lot different, to be fair, just because there was such a big team and squad of players. Like, you've nearly got 30 players in the panel, whereas with Bowes, I suppose, what was a squad of 22 maybe. I think it could have been 22, maybe it's 20. And I suppose it was kind of weird. It was like, you've got your players battling to get into the squad, you've got your players then battling to get into the team and things like that. I thought it was a huge difference in mentality, I suppose, and approach to games. You never really knew, like, you never had an idea who was going to play for the Dubs. Like, you always knew that there was something going to be changed or things like that, which I found was a bit of a struggle nearly to prepare for a game. Whereas, with Bows, say, or with Ireland, whatever, you kind of knew if you were going to play, or you'd have someone speak to you whether you're going to play, whether you're not going to play, and things like that. I found the Gaelic was definitely a lot more tough mentally, in terms of just knowing whether you're going to play, whether you're not going to play. Because I think, personally, I think a lot of goalkeepers will tell you this: it's harder to prepare as a goalkeeper if you're going to play, rather than, if you're not going to, and if you're not going to play, definitely outfielders will, they can switch on, whereas goalkeeper, it's just, I suppose, only goalkeepers will be able to tell you, they'd much rather be told, yeah, I'm playing or not playing, whereas outfielders, they won't really tell you as much if they mind or not.
Yeah, no, I get you. And of course, while you were at Bows, you mentioned it there, you got to experience, a Bows Rovers atmosphere at its absolute peak. Is it the best atmosphere you've ever been a part of?
100 billion%. I'll tell you something, the Bows fans definitely create more than an atmosphere. I've had some memorable nights, been on the bench. I never got to play in a senior derby. Obviously, we got to play them, with the 19s. We won a cup final out there in Tala. Even, Bows brought 500 away to Tala for a 19s cup final, which was mental, I suppose. And, I think there was nearly 2,000 that came for a 19s cup final, which kind of, it really shows you how big of a rivalry there is there. Definitely, it was mental. Like, you've got Dara scoring in the 99th minute and everyone just running down the sideline and jumping into the crowd, say, or you've got Stokely, and we won 1-0 out there as well. There's definitely been mad nights, or even when Dinny missed the penalty and then scored the rebound and Rovers had 2 sent off, or there's been mad nights, or even Dano scoring in Daily Mount, that volley, I think it was about 40 yards out, that volley with his weak foot, and even that, like, it's just, I've never experienced any type of atmosphere the way that Bows and Rovers is. Like, it's such a, you can tell how intense the rivalry is, just from the minute you're, walking into the stadium or whatever else. It's definitely something that, as a player, it's something that I'd always want to experience, is definitely getting to play in one of them derbies.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of good atmospheres, you're always a man to be on Hill 16 for an All-Ireland final, in which Dublin took part of. Is that right up there as another, great atmosphere that you've experienced?
Definitely, I think the atmosphere, though, in terms of the Gaelic football and, soccer, it's a lot different. Whereas, like, obviously you've got your split fans, whereas in GAA, the fans sit together and things like that, which is, it's strange. It is, like, when you look at it from a footballing perspective and then a Gaelic footballing perspective, it's strange. It is, but it's definitely, nothing will ever beat. What did we get to watch Dublin? What are we now? We're going for 7 in a row. Unfortunately, we didn't get to watch 6 last year. We had to watch it on the telly, but I've been to every All-Ireland final Dublin have played in, and it's something that you look back on and growing up, and definitely, like, the things when whatever comes on after the games and things like that, and everyone's just got a smile on their face. I suppose Hill 16, you get your small patches of whoever we're playing against, your Kerry, your Mayos, your whoever, but Hill 16 is definitely full of the Dubs, and it's an atmosphere definitely like no other.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have any pre-match routine, rituals, anything like that?
I wouldn't say. I suppose it's a bit of a mad one, but I like to leave everything last minute. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like I'm more clued in when I leave everything last minute, and whether it's getting ready or things like that. It's probably not the best of things to be doing now. You'd rather be prepared, but I find myself that I play better when I do things last minute, when I'm running around, because it just kind of wakes me up and tells me that I need to be ready. And then I've got another strange one. It's just wearing white boots. I don't know what it is, but I just have to wear white boots or I just don't feel the same. It's a mad one, all right, but look, it's the way I need to play anyways.
Yeah, no, definitely. It does have a kind of effect on your mindset going into games when things have been switched up a little bit. How did you balance sport, with having a social life? Obviously, you're growing up, you're going from being, kind of a young teenager into, a young adult. And, obviously, there's nights out, there's parties, there's, drinking is coming in a lot more now, and people are going out to pubs and stuff. And then at the same time, you have this very demanding professional type sport. And then, the Gaelic football is getting a lot more professional as well. How did you balance, enjoying your life with, the sports side?
I think that's something certainly that I struggled with, like from the start when kind of I joined Bowls and things like that, and I was with the national team, and then I was with the Dubs and things like that. I didn't have any social life, and I think that was definitely a big problem. Like you go home, you eat, sleep, you wake up, you go to school, you train, and just go to bed. And I suppose even on weekends, you're not even getting a chance to see your mates or things like that. Going out was it didn't bother me not going out or things like that. It was more just getting a chance to take a break and just switch off from football. Whereas I found that football was just football my whole life, and I think I struggled with that a lot. I kind of found a balance when I suppose it was just with Bowls. I had no other distractions when I was with Bowls, and obviously going on the Irish trips and things like that. I think that's when I kind of found more of a social life, and I got to see my mates and things like that. But I suppose it was definitely tough, and you look at people going out and things like that, and you're like, oh, I'd love to be with my mates, but I suppose sacrifice you need to make to get where you want to be.
Yeah. So just before we wrap up, I'll ask you one more thing. Where is the goal for you to be now over the next couple of years? What's the goal here?
The goal for me is definitely get my degree. That's one thing, just to have something behind me, so that if a football career doesn't work out or whatever else, personally, I want to be a professional footballer. I want my day-to-day life to be wake up and go and play football. And wherever it takes me, I'd love to definitely go back to Bowls as well in the future, and get to play in the derbies and things like that. I was only in the Aviva there. What was a Thursday night, and I tell you something, it's something you definitely miss being involved in the games and things like that. But definitely I want to, get my degree behind me, have something behind me, get my coaching badges finished and have that behind me as well, so that I can actually go full throttle at my career. If it doesn't work out, I can always have them two things to fall back on then.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Seán, been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a million, Shay. I love chatting to you anyways, and thanks very much for having me.
All right, guys. That is this episode of the podcast finished. We hope you enjoyed, and take care.